Hello everyone. This is my fourth outtake of this beginning of this video because I keep getting overexcited and I keep getting all my words mixed up. So I apologise. I hope you're all okay. I am missing you so much. I can't wait to see you when we all go back to school, which is hopefully soon, so fingers crossed. I have seen some fantastic videos of all of the things that you've been doing. I have seen some brilliant pictures, some stories that you've made, some starts to your time capsules, which I've only sent out on Monday, which is amazing. I have seen all of the things that you've been baking, books that you've been reading. I've been going on Mathletics and seeing who's been doing all of the things that I've set on Mathletics. I've seen all of your times table scores. I've seen people practicing handwriting, people practicing spelling. It is all absolutely amazing. And I am so proud of you for working so hard, because it must be really tricky trying to do all of that at home, and not being able to do it at school. So well done. I'm very impressed. I am going to read a bit more of Beetle Boy today. We got up to page 86, I think. Yeah, page 86. So I'm going to read a little bit more of that, but I'm not going to read it for 27 minutes because no one wants to listen to Miss Hazeldine talk for 27 minutes. Even I am sick of hearing my own voice after that amount of time. So I'm going to shorten it right down, and I'm only going to do 15 minutes. For your sake, as well as mine and your mums and dads. So let's start, and then we can hear what happens next in the story. Let me find where I'm up to. So page 86, if you're following at home. I might have to read a little bit more that we've recapped already. So I'm going to just start from the top of the page. Okay, get on with it, Miss Hazeldine. He thought about his own bicycle. It was in the shed at home, sitting unused outside his empty house south of the river in Crystal Palace. It felt like a lifetime since he had been there, and happy. The familiar tide of sadness rose in his chest as he felt homesick for the first time before Dad had disappeared. Unwanted tears sprang into his eyes. Angrily, he pushed his feelings aside, scrambling out into the open and sprinting to the tree. He jumped up, catching hold of the lowest branch, swung his legs up, and climbed swiftly up the tree. When he arrived on the branch opposite the window, his heart was pounding in his chest. At first, he couldn't make sense of what he was looking at. We've already read this bit, but I'm going to just read it anyway. The wooden frame was empty of glass, which explained how he'd heard the two men quarrelling, and all over the wood and surrounding brickwork, unnoticeable from the ground, were hundreds of red ladybirds. There were so many of them scurrying around the window frame that it looked like it was moving. Darkus smiled. These ladybirds made him feel different from the giant... Say that again. Darkus smiled. These ladybirds made him feel different from the giant yellow one he'd seen that morning, which had been wrong somehow. He peered through the window. Sitting inside was an enormous backside wedged up against the door. It was the fat one, Humphrey, wearing only a pair of boxer shorts and a string vest. He had a white bucket beside him and was scooping up a handful of pink stuff from it, pouring it into his mouth and then licking his fingers clean. But it wasn't Humphrey that made Darkus gawp. Gawp means like, what? At first glance, it looked like there was a mountain in the room, sitting on the flowery carpet and reaching up to the ceiling. Darkus thought it was some kind of model until he looked closely at the mossy hillside and realised it was actually a huge pile of mouldy teacups. The gaps between the cups were filled with grass, mushrooms and tiny plants he'd seen growing out of cracks in the walls. There were dandelions sprouting out of the side facing the window, and near the peak a butterfly bush grew, with purple flowers hanging down like bunches of grapes. He gazed at the impossible thing, his eyes jumping between cup rims and handles, and suddenly noticed that between the cups and inside them were flickering antennae and serrated legs. He remembered Baxter's delight at getting a mug inside his tank and realised that these cups were all full of beetles. He spotted 2 stags peeping out of a chipped teacup and then a rhinoceros beetle, smaller than Baxter, with copper-coloured elytra backing into a coffee mug. A flash of emerald green drew his attention to a cluster of glamorous jewel beetles, which he recognised from an illustration in his red book. When he saw the trail of giraffe-necked weevils climbing awkwardly up a path between the mugs, looking like a row of clowns dressed in red and black, he clamped his hand over his mouth to suppress a cry of delight and almost fell out of the tree. Darcus's heart soared to see so many species. The Beetle Mountain was the most alien and beautiful thing he'd ever seen. There was a bang on the door. "I'm warning you, Humphrey," Pickering's voice came from the other side. "This is your last chance." Darcus saw Humphrey lick his lips and grin. He was obviously enjoying winding up his cousin. This is the picture. Can you see? It's the picture on that page. "I'm counting to 3, Pickering barked, "and then I'm coming in. 1, Humphrey guffawed into his chubby fingers. 2, Humphrey leant back. "You'll never do it," he crowed. 3! There was a loud crash as the blade of an axe ripped through the wooden door just above Humphrey's head. "Spawn of Satan!" Humphrey sprang forward onto all fours, his belly swinging from side to side as he crawled away. Shocked, Darcus jumped up as the door flew open and almost lost his balance again, grabbing onto the branch to stop himself from falling. Pickering stood in the doorway with the axe raised above his head. He advanced menacingly towards his cousin. "I warned you, Humphrey," he said with an unnerving smile, "but you wouldn't listen." "Now, Pickering, old boy, no need for violence, eh?" Humphrey was on his knees. "You just wouldn't listen." Pickering's eyes were wide and unblinking. "A joke, Pickers. Surely you can take a joke." Humphrey gave a weak laugh. "A joke? A joke?" Pickering pointed at the mountain. "You think that is a joke?" "It's just a bunch of dirty cups," Humphrey spluttered. "I was going to wash them up. Honest I was." "You disgust me, Humphrey Gamble." Pickering shook his head. "I can't believe we're related. Look at those tea stains splattered up the walls. And what's that?" He pointed. "Fungal spores." His chest heaved and Darcus thought he was going to be sick. "There's creepy crawlies all over the floor. This room is a health hazard." Pickering's voice was getting higher. "Now, can you see why I had to write to the council?" "You did it to get rid of me," Humphrey said matter-of-factly. "Well, yes," Pickering admitted. "But can you blame me? You're a pig letting your room get like this. How long have you been throwing your dirty cups into the corner?" Humphrey shrugged and muttered, "Since we moved in?" Pickering turned towards the mounting crockery. "You've even smashed the glass in the window." Humphrey's eyes followed Pickering. To Darcus's horror, he suddenly found both men staring straight at him. Quick as lightning, Pickering darted over to the window, reached out and grabbed Darcus by the scruff of his jumper. Darcus's horror was eclipsed by fear as he found himself dangling in mid-air. He grabbed at the window frame with his fingertips, letting out a strangled scream, and the ladybirds took off, a cloud of red and black. There was no one to help him. Uncle Max was out. "Baxter!" he cried as if he was hauled through the window and thrown down onto the floor, scattering beetles in every direction. "Well, well, well, look at what I found." Pickering stood over Darcus. "It's a spying boy." His face twisted as he scrutinised Darcus. "I've seen you before, haven't I?" He nodded slowly. "Yesterday in the street you were watching me. Why?" "What boy?" Humphrey said, still on his knees. "What street?" Darcus tried to protest, but all the air had been smacked out of him when he'd hit the floor, and his body was screaming for oxygen. His lungs felt like they were going to burst. "What are you doing spying through our window?" I... Darcus gasped, finally able to breathe. "Cat got your tongue?" Pickering sneered. Darcus's head was throbbing, and as the burning in his lungs subsided, it was eclipsed by a searing pain in his lower back. The beetles were no longer on the floor. They were retreating into their cups. Darcus looked about, desperately hoping he hadn't squashed any of them. Realising Pickering's anger was no longer directed at him, Humphrey climbed to his feet and came to stand beside his skeletal cousin. That's a nice adjective, skeletal cousin. Must be very skinny. "Speak up or we'll chop you up and eat you," he smacked his lips. Pickering grabbed Darcus's chin. "I know what you're doing, you nasty little skinhead. Don't you think that I don't? Don't you think that I don't?" His fingers locked around Darcus's jaw. "You were sniffing around here the other night, weren't you? You're a thief." "What? No!" Darcus tried to shake his head. I'm sorry about looking through your window. I mean, I was just..." "You were casing the joint." Pickering tightened his grip. "What?" Humphrey spluttered. "I didn't tell you this, Humphrey, but last week when you were out, I heard noises in here. I came in and scared away intruders." "Really?" Humphrey looked about in surprise. There was nothing much in the bedroom except for the mountain of cups and a dirty pink armchair the size of a small sofa that wasn't worth stealing. Two of them, great ugly men dressed in black, poking about in that rotting pile of filth. Pickering glared at the mountain, his nostrils flaring in disgust. They were wearing face masks and rubber gloves because it's so dirty in here. Pickering let go of Darcus and advanced towards his cousin, tightening his grip on the axe. "I hate living with you, Humphrey. Do you know that? I wake up every morning hoping that you're not here." "And you saw this boy with the thieves?" Humphrey said hurriedly. He pointed at Darcus, trying to divert Pickering's attention. "He was one of the robbers." "I couldn't see their faces." Pickering stopped to think. "But the two I chased away were two men. This one must have been hiding." "And now he's come back to finish what they started," Humphrey said. "I'm not a thief," Darcus exclaimed. "Really?" Pickering turned. "Then explain to me why you were on my property, up my tree, looking in my window with your thieving little black eyes." He charged back across the room and leant over Darcus. "It's my antiques you're after, isn't it? You're planning on stealing my antiques." "I've never seen your antiques," Darcus protested, scrambling backwards until his shoulders came up against the wall. "You expect me to believe that after you've just sneaked through a yard full of them?" He grabbed Darcus's face. "You lying little toe rag!" Darcus squirmed as the man's nails sank deep into his cheeks. "Now what am I going to do with you?" "I know." Humphrey stepped forward eagerly. "Let me bake him into a pie. That'll teach him." "Don't be ridiculous," Pickering said, letting Darcus drop to the floor. "We need to tie him up." Crouching down, Humphrey sniffed around Darcus like an excited dog. "I'd have to skin you before I could put you in a pie," he grinned, "because human skin is pretty chewy." Ugh, how would he know that? Darcus went cold. He desperately hoped the fat man was just trying to frighten him. Pickering dropped his axe, left the room and returned with a length of rope and the kitchen chair. "Sit on this," he ordered. "What are you going to do to me?" Darcus asked. Pickering pushed him down onto the chair and tied him to it. "Kidnapping is illegal, you know." "So is stealing." Pickering turned to Humphrey. "Pass me your cranberry sauce." Humphrey waddled over to him with the white bucket beside the door. "Are we going to eat him?" "Firstly, we'll make him talk," Pickering said to Humphrey. "Then, once you've got rid of that," his eye twitched as if it looked at the filthy mass of insect life taking up most of the room, that thing you can do what you like with him. Humphrey clapped happily. Now, Pickering stood in front of Dorcas with his arms crossed. You're going to tell me about the gang that you work for and when they plan to rob me. I'm going to stop there. Page 97. I wonder what's going to happen to poor Dorcas. I'd be interested to hear your predictions. If you would like to make one, please send it to me on an email. I would love to hear it. You might be able to post it on the comment on the video. I'm not sure. You'll have to see. So I'm going to stop there for today, and I'll post another one on Thursday. As I said, please take care. Please stay safe. I've loved reading that part with you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.